Gracias. So hello, everyone. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
It is so great to be back in Argentina. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
So Elizabeth is the co-founder and CEO of Lightning Labs, where they are building with an awesome team the key infrastructure that we need to bring faster and cheaper payments to Bitcoin. So that's great. Who doesn't want that, right? So let's start by acknowledging that this week has been rough for most, if not everyone in the space. And we probably have people in the audience who are either direct victims of the FTX collapse, or that maybe they're new to the ecosystem and they are worried or they are confused about what should we do next. So my question is, how does the recent event with FTX impact on Lightning and Bitcoin in general?
It has been quite a week. I mean, I feel like I'm watching a movie in real time, but it's almost not even believable, right? And this is true. Many people have been affected by this. I know potentially many people here in this room. And this is a great reason to understand why Bitcoin is different, right? Bitcoin and quote-unquote crypto are not the same thing. Bitcoin, as we know, Satoshi proposed it in 2008. In 2009, in the Genesis block of Bitcoin, right, Satoshi etched in there, a message about money printing, chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks, about the idea that the current financial system is not sustainable. And what we've seen in a lot of these other, communities, and what happened clearly with the FTX is mimicking many of the problems of the existing system that is going to harm a lot of the people out there. Bitcoin only has 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. We know that Bitcoin is decentralized. One key element of Bitcoin at the very beginning, there was no pre-mine. Nobody actually kept any of the Bitcoin. Anybody could mine, and anybody still can mine. And what we've seen in a lot of other communities is things like money printing, people creating tokens out of thin air, people trying to maintain pegs that don't actually get maintained. And in the case of FTX, right, a lot of people trusted, SBF, that exchange. And in Bitcoin, we have a saying, don't trust, verify, right? And in the traditional financial system, it's reliant on trust. And unfortunately, what happened there to many of the people is they trusted somebody who was not trustworthy, right? And at the end of the day, there are many people that have gotten hurt from that. And I think it's a really important reminder about the importance of decentralization, the importance of the values of Bitcoin and what Bitcoin stands for. It's not about printing magic internet money. It's not about, or shitcoins, or however you want to frame it. It's not about over leverage and what we call rehypothecation, loaning out funds, using your printed shitcoins then to actually create leverage. Bitcoin is about rethinking what money is, challenging the traditional system, and not repeating the mistakes of the past. So we had a lot of, our investors for Lightning Labs reach out in the wake of what happened. And they said, are you okay? And I said, Lightning is unaffected, right? Because at the end of the day, what we're building is a network, a community, one that is decentralized and one that is reliant on many of the people that are running these nodes out there, as opposed to one big exchange where people unfortunately trusted that exchange, and now there are many billions of dollars that just, are gone out of thin air. So the way that I see it, Bitcoin is fundamentally different than so much of what is happening out there. Look at Luna and Terra. I know a lot of people here in Argentina had UST because maybe they trusted it and they thought, oh, this is $1, I can earn these incredible yields. Well, by the way, if it seems like it's too good to be true, it's almost certainly too good to be true, right? And then people lost their money because Luna was backed by, a token, a shitcoin, that wasn't actually, the peg did not work. When I first heard about it, I said, this thing is not possible. Like, how can this thing actually work? So as a community of people that care deeply about the future of money and decentralization, I think it is incumbent upon us to recognize that there's a lot of activity out there that is just like what Satoshi was fighting against in creating Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin is different, and Bitcoin will withstand all of this. Bitcoin is a honey badger of money, right? Honey badger don't care. Bitcoin will keep going and is keeping going right now. Lightning is still running. And at the end of the day, there are many important lessons to be learned from these large blow-ups that we've seen happen time and time again.
Yeah, I think that it's really important that we mention this, because for newcomers, it's easy to think that what just happened is related to Bitcoin or is...
By the way, there was barely any Bitcoin, and the vast majority of it was withdrawn on FTX, right? So it's fundamentally a different community with different values.
So you mentioned just learnings that we should have from this. What do you think are the main learnings that we should have from here?
There's a saying, not your keys, not your coins, right? In the community, we'd say, don't trust, verify, not your keys, not your coins. And the importance of people to understand that when you have, here in Argentina, right? If you put your dollars in a bank, there's a risk that they could be force converted at a really bad rate, say, or maybe somebody takes that away from you. Similarly, as we've seen with exchanges going under or major hacks happening, if you're leaving your coins on exchanges or in custodial services, there's that risk as well. And I think that's where Moon comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? To help people with a better user experience and more easily use Bitcoin and Lightning, but actually to have the ability to hold their own coins, to have that self-sovereignty, which is so critical and key to this community.
Yeah, I think that so many of the most valuable aspects of Bitcoin can be lost if we store them in custodial services, especially if they are doing weird things with our money. So it's really important, and I think the Argentinian community gets that really well. So let's talk a bit about Lightning now. So Lightning has been growing so much in every way. What areas or segments within the Lightning ecosystem are you seeing developing the most or the fastest?
I'm continually amazed by the community that we've seen develop in Lightning, right? There are people building applications, hosting hack days, and this is global. It's not just in any one region. We look at places like all over Latin America, Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, the goal for what we're doing is this is not something just in the US, Europe, or anywhere. This is something that really impacts the entire world. And by the way, shout out to Grunch, who I know is organizing Lightning Hack Days here in Buenos Aires, where people are building applications on Lightning. And really the goal with Lightning, and when we were first starting Lightning Labs, is we're creating this layer 2, instant high volume transactions, decentralized network. It's a protocol, and we want people, and we have seen them do this, to build on Bitcoin, right? And we've seen all sorts of application developers. We've seen new companies, startups emerge. We've seen really interesting, hackathons and projects come out of that. And one of the things in the last, a lot's happened in the last 2 years. I was actually in Buenos Aires right before COVID. Obviously, the world changed a lot. The amount of building and the amount of new applications and new players in the community has grown substantially. And new people are popping up all over the world now, which I love. And we kind of have all these, obviously there's Bitcoin Twitter and Slack communities and all of that. So what we've seen is right now we have a lot of node operator communities. So shout out, there's one called PlebNet, another one called Ring of Fire, and these emerged in about the last year or two. People realize, they can start running a Lightning node. You don't need to be a big company or professional to do so. And they can deploy capital in the network. And then these communities emerge where it was almost like a social network. People were like, oh yeah, I'll open a channel to you on Lightning, kind of putting capital in the network, connecting to that person. And they all became internet friends. By the way, in Bitcoin, we have a lot of internet friends. It's really fun because then I meet these people in person. I'm like, oh, I know you on the internet. And so we've seen node operators emerge. We've seen these communities and networks of node operators emerge. And then we've seen a lot of people run workshops and develop strategies around how to run these nodes and how to optimize it and how to put your liquidity on the network. So I think that has contributed a lot to the growth of, say, capital on the network and Bitcoin on the network. And then in terms of use cases, I like to say Lightning enables 2 types of use cases. One, use cases that weren't previously possible. Think about internet money, natively embedded, digital payments. Why can I send a photo to anybody, anywhere around the world, but I can't just seamlessly send money or value? Well, Lightning changes that. The second is access for those that previously did not have it. So if you're in an emerging market, you might have a mobile phone, you don't have a bank account, you don't use, Visa, you don't want to pay the 3+% that these, companies will charge for you to use a card. Well, all you need here is a mobile phone. And that has really encouraged a lot of the developers and the new use cases we've seen lately.
That's awesome. So one thing that Lightning Labs has done great, in my opinion, is developing a global community. I wonder what aspects of this community you would like to maintain as the ecosystem keeps growing and keeps developing?
Yeah, so we've certainly seen a lot of discussion around nation-state adoption. We saw El Salvador make Bitcoin legal tender, but one of the areas that I'm really excited about is community adoption, kind of cities or like regional areas that have adopted Bitcoin and Lightning. And we see more and more of these all the time. So you had Bitcoin Beach, and shout out to the Bitcoin Beach community. I know they're here. And they were one of the OGs to kind of adopt this. Mm-hmm. And then we saw everything from Bitcoin Akasi, the founders here as well, in South Africa. We actually have in now Vietnam, Bitcoin Beach, Vietnam. There's Bitcoin Island in the Philippines. There's Bitcoin Mountain in Gambia. That one we just learned about, fairly recently. But it's been around for a bit. There's Bitcoin Jungle in Costa Rica. I believe there's Bitcoin Lake in Guatemala. So I think, Bitcoin at its core, it's bottom up. It's community driven, it's decentralized. So there's so much power in communities forming, having this circular economy, using Lightning as a means to transact. And I believe we'll see a lot more of this. And also shout out to Fedi and the Fediment folks, because they're building technologies and they're using, they have the Xiaomi and eCash element, and then Lightning is a key part of what they're doing, and you can pay out to Lightning, and they're also targeting these local communities. So I think in the next year or two, we'll see a lot more communities emerge that are adopting Bitcoin and Lightning.
That's so good, so good. So aside from Lightning, you are also working on a new protocol called Taro. Can you tell us what Taro is?
Definitely related to Lightning. So Taro, so it's a root vegetable. Folks might know it. It's popular in places like Venezuela, Southeast Asia, Africa. Is based on Taproot, the update to Bitcoin that happened about a year ago now. Uses the Merkle tree structures. And shout out to my co-founder, Lalo, aka Roast Beef, for conceptualizing this and being the architect. He's also the fastest speaker you have ever met. Mm-hmm. If anybody's ever seen him. Lightning fast. So it is a protocol for assets on Bitcoin and Lightning. And what we'd seen in the community, in talking to people as well, if folks know the Human Rights Foundation, definitely recommend checking out the work of my friend Alex Gladstein. He does a lot of writing about human rights, activists, and the importance of Bitcoin and Lightning, monetary freedom, privacy, and all of that. And I think folks here in Argentina understand the demand for stable coins.
Yes, we do.
People want a stable store of value. Absolutely love Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be volatile, right? But people want access to, say, dollars. And Taro is a protocol to enable assets in Bitcoin and Lightning. And the goal is really to have stable coins operating on Bitcoin and Lightning. And now, why Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is, the most secure blockchain, the largest, has by far the most users globally, has the network effect. So Taro uses the security of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin base chain. Mm-hmm. But importantly, it also uses layer 2 and Lightning. So much like you can move Bitcoin onto Lightning, if you're using Bitcoin, with Taro, you can move, say, dollar stablecoin from on-chain layer 1 into Lightning layer 2. So then you have the scalability, you have the low fees, and you have the instantaneous nature, so the fast nature of the transactions. And the goal really here is, okay, why today, if you're sending payments or you're paying at your local shop, are the merchants paying several % for digital transactions? Why, if you're sending money across borders, sometimes people are paying 10 or 20% just to send $100 across a border? That's crazy. The idea of cross-border payments doesn't even make sense. Like, it shouldn't even be a thing in this world. It should just be a payment. We don't say cross-border email, right? Mm-hmm. Or cross-border tweet. So with Taro, we want to kind of enable people to seamlessly globally send value around the world. And the idea is also to Bitcoinize the dollar. I actually came up with this term. We were chatting with a bunch of developers, and I thought, okay, you hear of dollarized economies, right? Where people are primarily using, say, the US dollar, even though that's not their main currency. Well, why not Bitcoinize fiat? Because one of the key elements of Taro is not only does it use the security of Bitcoin, when you're sending Taro assets on Lightning, so say a USD stablecoin, you're actually routing through Bitcoin. So you could go from dollar to Bitcoin, then it sends, just over normal Lightning routing nodes on the network. Those routing nodes are earning fees. Then at the edge, so like the last hop, it converts back to dollar, and then the recipient receives dollar. So what that means is, and the goal here is, to enable, dollars or potentially all fiat currencies to route through Bitcoin. Bitcoin then becomes a global routing currency that connects all these other currencies. And, well, Bitcoin, we know it's a store of value. Folks use that. It is also, with Lightning, the monetary network and the medium of exchange that enables people to transact globally in a variety of different currencies. So, by the way, one of our developers, Jonathan Harvey Bushel, is doing a Taro workshop in Espanol, I believe at around 4 o'clock, so definitely recommend checking that out. And with Taro, we actually released the first code end of September. Because,
Wow.
People are always saying, when is it going to be ready? And nobody can tell you exactly when. But the team is hard at work in getting the code out. That was the initial code. And it was interesting because that day was the day that in the UK, so the pound was dropping, and it dropped to almost like 1.03 US dollars. And the Bank of England actually had a big bailout. I think it was 60 plus billion pounds. So somebody used Taro the day that it was released to mint 20 billion, euros they did at the end of the day. But it was similar in terms of what was going on globally. And the idea being, well, it was just on testnets. They weren't real euros. But kind of a statement around what's going on in the global macroeconomic environment.
That's very interesting. So Taro will be a global protocol, just like Bitcoin and Lightning. And you also mentioned how the demand that there is in countries like Argentina for stablecoins. So how do you imagine that the adoption in emerging markets will differ from adoption in developed countries where people can already access the dollar?
Exactly. Great question. So, I'm from the US, I'm from New York, and today it's not necessarily hard for somebody to pay at their local cafe, you're buying a coffee. But in a lot of places around the world, so here in Argentina, right, I was just asking, what is the inflation rate? It's about 100% per year. I was at a restaurant last night, I saw the menu from a month ago, and the prices had gone up in pesos quite a lot since then. So I actually think one of the really interesting elements here will be, today people are taking, pesos, right? Like, it's not like you pay in dollars at merchants. Some merchants might accept Bitcoin. But I think globally, people that are, say, running small businesses will have more opportunities if they want to take Bitcoin and if they want to take dollars. They don't necessarily need to take the local currency if it has such high inflation. Then you also have the fee component, right? In the US, these fees are somewhat baked in, but it is shocking to me today that the incumbent, say, Visa, MasterCard, credit card companies charge something like 3%. I mean, in terms of the amount of global transactions, that is a huge amount of money. And given that technology is progressing, that cost should go down, not up. They actually just raised the costs, right? So, ultimately, it's interesting. The way that technology evolves, those that are the incumbents are never the ones that create the technology that then kind of puts them out of business. So the idea of having a global, decentralized monetary network that is a protocol, nobody controls Bitcoin, nobody controls Lightning, anybody can run a node, anybody can participate, anybody can use any number of wallets like Moon, put it on their phone, they can be self-custodial, right? It's really core to the value of Bitcoin and not core to some of the values of what we've seen happen this week. And that changes so much. Because if you're in an emerging market where you have this mobile phone, but you don't have a bank account, you're not hooked into the traditional financial system, you're able to participate, right? And so today, if you're using Moon, right, you need internet access, right? Here in Argentina, mobile access is good. But there are a number of places globally where you may not have internet access, but you still have a mobile phone. So we've seen, for example, Shout out to KG, founder of Matcha and Kura. Apps now, he's speaking, I think, later today, he's here in Argentina, that enable people to use not even smartphones, but feature phones to send funds with Lightning. And they're currently in a variety of places in Africa, I believe, Ghana, South Africa, Namibia, Kenya, and a bunch of other places. And it even hooks into M-Pesa, which is mobile money, in Africa. And now Bitcoin and Lightning are connected to mobile money and all sorts of services that people are using there. And what it ends up being is a global way for people around the world to connect. And to me, the importance of financial freedom and the importance of giving people an opportunity to hold their own money, to not be reliant on any bank, government, or say the monetary policy that might result in 100% inflation per year, is so key to everything that we believe in and what we're working on with Bitcoin and Lightning. And may I also say that the community never ceases to amaze me and the people that are building on this technology. Every day we learn about new people building, new applications, new use cases in new communities. And what we're focused on is solving real problems for real people and actually bringing financial freedom to the world and Bitcoin to billions.
So great time to build, right?
By the way, it is a bear market, but not in the Lightning world. Now is the time to build, and we're seeing so many people build important things, and they're focused. So I encourage everyone to get involved. And yeah, thanks again. I love you guys here at Argentina. So excited to be back.
Thank you, everyone.
Muchas gracias.
Uy, caramba.